I'm excited to share with you that April 1st is our birthday. This one is our fourth of amplifying the diverse voices in our communities, broadcasting community events, providing award-winning instructional classes to youth and adults, supporting our music communities in all genres and forms, hosting critical conversations, and making sure that we are who you are. 2020 provided us with the opportunities to meet the needs of our communities. Rainier Avenue Radio is proud to have provided our communities with the most comprehensive coverage of how the coronavirus did and continues to impact our communities. And so, for our birthday, on behalf of our amazing staff, volunteers, and show hosts, to all of our contributors, supporters, listeners, and viewers, thank you. Thank you for your support and patience while we were trying to figure out this internet and broadcasting media thing 4 years ago. Thank you to our youth students who took our courses in interdisciplinaries like communication, journalism, multimedia, math and coding, adult digital literacy, social media analytics, beat making, film, photography, and of course, broadcast. Thank you for staying with us even when we made mistakes. You know that when we provide opportunities for you to share your voice, thoughts, issues, concerns, and talents, then we look at that as growing together. As the African proverb says, that is how we will go far. We have grown, and you've grown with us. We have over 80 shows hosted or produced by members of our communities. And all of this during a pandemic. But that is one reason why we do exist. As a true grassroots organization that started out broadcasting out of a study room in the Columbia City Library, we formed alliances with groups like the YWCA, worked with city government, private developers, and a variety of arts organizations to promote sustainable art space, land acquisition, and ownership for arts organizations. I'm sure many were shocked when we leased 3 properties in the heart of Columbia City, providing our community members with business opportunities for a hair salon, barbershop, recording studio, rental hall, youth concert and celebration space, artist residency, and an art gallery, among the other multiple uses. We are continuing that growth as we move towards ownership of property in the Central District and in land acquisition in South Seattle's Columbia City to preserve the historical and cultural artistic integrity of our communities and ensure that independent voices continue to be heard. So for those of you who have found out about us recently, we thank you on our birthday for allowing us to broadcast our community-created content however and wherever you listen and watch. If you'd like to make a birthday donation to Rainier Avenue Radio, it would be much appreciated. Yes, times are tough, so any amount would be greatly appreciated. You will see the results. Here's how you can donate. You can go to our website at rainieravenueradio.world and go to the donate page. You can Venmo at Rainier Avenue Radio. You can send a check to Rainier Avenue Radio, P.O. Box 18774, Seattle, Washington, 98118. You can donate to Shunpike, which is our fiscal agent. Just indicate that your contribution is for Rainier Avenue Radio. Shunpike is the 501c3 nonprofit agency that provides independent art groups like ours in Washington State services, resources, and opportunities. Once again, happy birthday to us at Rainier Avenue Radio .world. We are your community radio station. We will continue to provide you with community-created content, broadcast live from our communities, and of course, we'll bring you high school sports like nobody else can. Join us in celebration. Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
Hey, oh.
Welcome. This is Brenda Charles-Edwards, the host of Seniors Matter. We're live every Friday at 12:30 Pacific Standard Time on www.rainieravenueradio.world, your community radio station. You can also listen to us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, the Rainier Avenue Radio app, and Alexa. Seniors Matter invites a variety of guests to discuss issues and activities that impact the lives of older adults, their families, and the community. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section on Facebook. If you're interested in knowing what's the best gift you can give yourself and your loved ones, join me on Zoom for a group or individual session on end-of-life planning. Call me at 206-683-2636. My guest, Doris O'Neal, is the director of the YWCA Seattle, King, Snohomish counties has returned for part 2 of our conversation about intimate partner violence. Welcome back to the show, Doris. So good to have you again. Hey, how's it going?
Going pretty good. I'm glad it's Friday.
I know that's right. I'm glad it's Friday, but it's also a busy Friday.
It is.
I'm glad. Let me throw out a commercial here too. I just thought about, I'm involved with signing up people for COVID-19 vaccines. And if you haven't had yours yet, and you are an older adult, African-American, BIPOC, as they like to say, please go to COVID-19 at mountzionseattle.org. That's COVID, the number 19 at mountzionseattle.org. So now, Doris,
yes,
you're back. So we can continue talking about the preferred term for domestic violence is intimate partner violence. So now it has been called a health issue. Why is that? A public health issue, I should say.
It's called a public health issue because 1 in 4 women will experience some type of violence in their lifetime, and it kills. It's happening. It's a silent killer because it's kind of behind the doors. The abusive person will isolate the individual, the partner, and so it has been a killer. And so, as any other epidemic, or like we're going through COVID, not killing as much as COVID has, but it has killed many survivors over the years.
So what can the African-American community, what tools can they get to help them address this need?
Well, one of the things in our African-American communities, we have to address some of the root causes of violence. We have to think about the generational of violence that one may have experienced and create better ways of dealing. And so, like when I said intimate partner violence and domestic violence, they're the same thing, right? But
Right.
A lot of times that I have worked with are women that are African-American women, and we talk about domestic violence. They'll say, "Oh, I don't have that." It's like it's a disease or something. It is a disease, but because they feel like it's not physical, he hasn't hit me, that it's not necessarily DV. And there's so many different types of abuses.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So physical is the one that everybody, well, he's not physically hitting me, but he's mentally beating down your self-esteem, your mind, the gaslighting, the telling, putting you down, calling you out your name, disrespecting. Those are some of the mental and verbal abuses. We talk about the legal abuse. We have some abusers that use the legal system to manipulate the survivor and filing, different type of lawsuits against her and parenting plans that don't make any sense. And it's really just, again, about the power, especially if the abusive person has the financial means to do that. And so a lot of times, they have an attorney, but the survivor doesn't. And we talk about the medical abuse, because we've had survivors that says her abuser wouldn't let her go to the doctor or went to the doctor with her, withheld her medication, wouldn't let her take her medication, took the wheelchair from her, took a walker from her, knowing that she needed these things to be mobile. We talk about the reproduction coercion control, which is where he want to, as we say, keep her barefoot and pregnant, or withholds her birth control, or put holes in the condom, or won't let her go to the doctor, or force her to have an abortion against her will. Those are different, taking that power away from her being able to make determinations about her own body.
So Doris, speaking on children, does the abuser abuse the children? I mean, do they threaten harm to them or anything?
That was my next one. So
Okay.
the children, they use the children against the abuser. I mean, the survivor. Either by, we've had cases where the child has grown up watching dad be abusive, and he took on the same. That's why we talk about generational. If you leave me, I'm going to take the kids. If you leave me, I'm going to call CPS on you. Making false CPS reports, and then back to what I was talking about earlier, filing a parenting plan, trying to get sole custody of the children. So she feels she has to stay in that relationship to keep her children. Then the children we hear some survivors say, well, my kids were in the other room, but the kids hear the boom, boom, boom. Sure. They hear mom scream. They hear the hits upside the wall. They hear the plates being thrown. And so they're traumatized also. And we talk about a learned behavior. This is where our kids are learning some of this behavior of being violent. Because they say, well, if dad's doing it, it must be okay. And then if mom taking it, that must be the way it is. And so that's where that learned behavior continues.
Yes. And then is there help for the children?
There is. We provide a children's youth advocate, which I'm very pleased to say we just created a new curriculum to really address our BIPOC children, because not only is the trauma, or they're traumatized, but they have so many other things of self-esteem. Why is my skin dark and her skin light? Bullying. And so we're trying to have those conversations with the children, but also providing some tools to the mom so that she can, have some idea of her child is being bullied or abused in any type of way. So we do offer that support also.
Wonderful. So what about when they go to work? I mean, surely, I know you say if the abuser has the money, but
that financial abuse that falls up under the financial abuse, where he'll sabotage her job, will manipulate the paycheck, won't let her go to work, make her call in sick, or make her go to work so that she can make the money, and then he takes the money from her. And he's that, and I keep saying he, but I want to be careful because there are male victims out there also, but most of the time it is women. So you'll hear me say she. They manipulate the bank account, the credit card, the debit card, and so that falls up under what we identify as financial abuse. Or she's not able to work, and he's the primary breadwinner in the family. So she is again faced with, I want to leave this abusive situation, but I got 4 kids and I don't have any money, and I haven't been able to work for the last 10 years. So what am I going to do? On top of that, this abusive person has already told her she's too fat, she's too thin, she's too ugly, she's too this, she's too that. So her self-esteem is beat down, on top of not having any resources, because she's not aware that there's advocates around, the state, the county, the country that can support her with leaving that situation. So when we talk about the tools that the community need for family and friends of someone that know or suspect, the person is going to be embarrassed And if the family dynamic is, oh, you need to leave that person, or he's a good man, you need to do better, or things in that nature, she's
Ooh,
because I've heard them say, well, a piece of a man is better than no man at all. So,
wrong.
and they put that belief, those are some of the stereotypes out there that, oh, if he's hitting me, I must have did something wrong. And that's what
Mhm.
many abusers, many survivors, I mean, they think that. And so in our community, we need to be open-minded. We need to listen and be supportive. And it's not, why don't you leave? It is, why is that person being abusive? And if she wants to leave, how does she do that safely? Because one leaving may not be able to go to her mom's house, because most of the time your partner has been to your parents' house with you.
Right.
That may not
Mhm.
be a safe place for her to go. And so what our parents or family members may say is, I don't want that mess at my house. Don't
Mhm.
bring him over here and have him knocking on my door. And so
Mhm.
then she's kind of stuck, because like, who do I turn to? Who do I talk to? And so having a good listening ear, and then asking that individual, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? You want to leave. What is the plan that we can put in place, with the support to help you leave this situation alive? Because when a survivor is leaving, that's the most lethal time that she may be murdered or hurt. And so the safety planning is huge.
How long does it usually take to make a safety plan, Doris?
It doesn't take long at all to make a safety plan, because the survivor's gonna know what's safe for her, right? So it's not me telling you this is your safety plan. She knows what time they leave, what time they come
Mhm.
back, what time the kids go to school. She knows all those things. So we as advocates just support her with putting that in order and being able to leave in a way that is safe. And I don't like to identify all the different type of safety plan, because we never know who our
Who's
listeners are. And so,
right?
but there's different types of safety plans of leaving that we will discuss. We will let her tell us what she feels is safe, and then we will add on to that to support that leave.
So, is there such a thing as a technology abuse?
Yes, it is. It is technology, especially with these new modern phones. They can track you. They can, and we even have seen abusers have put GPSs on the survivor's car. She
Oh,
couldn't figure
wow.
out why he kept finding her, and
Hmm.
then it was so implanted on the car that we actually supported her. Was going to the dealership to have this removed off of her car, her phone. We always tell survivors, turn your phones off, turn your location tracking off. They can get into your computers. They demand to have the PIN code to the password on the computers. And it's getting more and more savvy as this new generation of technology is kicking in. You can almost hack anybody these days. And so if that
That's
person is a good computer expert, it doesn't take long. And so even in Texas, we have to be careful how much information that may be conveyed over the computer and how much is conveyed through a text message also.
so. Do immigrants or refugee survivors go through this too?
They do. They do. And it's sometimes even harder because we have a language barrier. And a lot of times, it's a community. It's We don't step out of our community and tell other people our problem. And then sometimes, depending on what country they're from, the male is the dominated person. Women are second class in some countries. And so it is. And it won't be only the abuser in some of our immigrant refugee families, it will be the whole family, because the male is the dominated person, so the family stands behind the man. And so when she's being abused, she can be abused by the whole family. And I've worked with some immigrant women, and I learned that, it wasn't just about even coming to court. The whole family came to the court hearing, and she had to say, she didn't want charges filed. She didn't want this and that. But when I had a conversation with her by myself, it was a different story. And then with the language barrier, they're not going to call the police. And then when the police do come out, they don't have a way of interpreting for our immigrant refugee women. So sometimes it could be even harder for our immigrant and refugee women to find safety because they have to be able to communicate that.
So I hate to ask this one because I know there's a lot of pet lovers out there, but do the abusers ever threaten to harm the pets?
Most definitely. I've heard stories that, I'll kill your dog if you leave me, throw the dog out the window, throw the cat out the window. They use the pet because we love our pets, right? I got one here messing with me right now. We love our pets. And so that the abusers are going to take whatever they can to hurt that person, your pets, your children, your job. And so, yes, pet abuse is another type of abuse.
So how can, I was going to say women, but how can the survivor learn not only the red flags, but the green flags too? Because oh boy, this is really deep.
When we talk about red flag, those are all different types of abusive behavior, right? And it's 2 pages of them. But when we talk about green flag, we're talking about a healthy relationship. And what does it look like to be healthy, to have a healthy relationship is to be respected, to be valued, to be believed, because a lot of times folks don't believe survivors in the DV and especially in sexual assault sometimes. And so when we look at what is healthy, a lot of survivors, and specifically our African-American survivors, we have grown up in family dynamics that this has been, I go back to the generational piece, this has been the MO of the family. And so how does one know what healthy looks like when all they have seen in their lives is this type of unhealthy relationship? So then when we start talking about what a healthy relationship, and I've even had a survivor come to me after she had been through our group and all of this stuff, and she knew a red flag and she knew a green flag, but she had met someone who was really nice to her. And she didn't know how to receive that because all she had was abusive men in her life. Now, this person was pulling out the chair, respecting her wishes, letting, doing all these gentlemen, healthy things. And it scared her. And what does that sound like? I get scared if somebody treat me nice. And that was the feedback that she gave me. So we had to talk about how she deserved to be treated that way, right? She deserved that. That was a right of hers. And it took some time, but she was got into a healthy relationship. And, last thing I heard, she was doing pretty well.
So I'm glad to hear that she did accept that she was worthy.
Yeah.
I'm sure it must be hard if you've been beaten up and not so much physically, but mentally beaten down, I guess the word is what I should use, about that you're not worthy.
You're not worthy. And, not only the abusive relationship, but the system makes us feel like we're not worthy. And so you have a system that's beating you down. You have an intimate partner that's beating you down. And so it can be very hard. When we look at survivors and they say a survivor, it may take up to 7 times before a survivor may leave an abusive relationship. And people say, why? Well, the first time is very traumatizing. There's not a whole lot of shelters. We don't know a lot about DV advocate. So the first time she comes, she may go back. She may go back the second time. But what we see is we are planting the seeds. And each time that she goes back, she has more information. She knows of her option. So when she makes that final determination that I am done, she knows what to do now. She's just not out there and I'm going to leave and I'm going to go. I've seen women that have left and stayed at the airport. They ride around in their cars. They sleep in their cars. They sleep at the bus station. They sleep in the parks just because they want to be safe. They don't want to be abused any further. And so each time she leaves, she's gaining more information than what she had the time before that. And that's what people say, well, why did it take 7 times? Because it could take up to 7 times. It doesn't mean that it will be 7, but it could take up to. And then that is a choice and a decision because the survivor knows what's safe for her and her children.
That's a good point. If you're just tuning in, you're listening live to Seniors Matter with your host, Brenda Charles-Edwards. We are here every Friday from 12:30 to 12:57, and you can listen to us and watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Rainier Avenue Radio App, and Alexa. Do you need financial documents notarized, or do you need documents read to you for clarity or completion? Call me at Black Orchid Enterprises, 206-683-2636. Tell me where, I'll meet you there. Now back to my guest, Doris O'Neal, who was a longtime victim advocate at the King County Prosecutor's Office and Domestic Violence Court. So Doris, what is the help that the abuser can get?
Well, that is something that is more of needs to happen because most of the time an abuser, if they are facing a criminal case, they oftentimes are ordered to attend a batter's treatment. And that is, here in Washington and Seattle, they're trying to create one that is more culturally relevant, and they're trying to create one with the Black man or the man of color in mind. I know I sat on the committee for that a couple of years ago. I'm not really sure how it's going right now, but I think the men need to step to the table. They need to step up, and for those to have mentorship and have those men that know what healthy relationship is. And that's when we talk about the community too, because the men have to step up and work with the men. I can't tell a man the same way, and I mean the common sense, but I can do DV advocacy with him, but the man, the Black man to the Black man, they're going to have a better understanding, and they're going to be able to learn from each other. And so in our Black community, that's what we really need to get the men help. We need the men to step up to the plate and make the help be available. We don't need to have a system tell us to go to batter's treatment. We should be able to have a supportive system of our own Black men in our community to have be able to create a space for our Black men, because not only is it DV for our Black men, it's the police, it's the gang, it's the trying to, fit in where you get in. And then again, I go back to generational, because then it goes back to what I seen my dad do, what I seen my grandfather do, what I seen my uncle do. And so that generational and learned behavior, but let's learn a different type, a healthy behavior. So we do need our Black men to step up to the plate.
Is that something that the YMCA could do? Is that a program that they could put together?
Could be. Could be. The YMCA doesn't do too much around domestic violence that I understand. And I don't want to take away if they are, but I haven't heard too much because they work a lot with our youth too.
I see.
That could definitely be something that they may do. I'm just not sure.
Right. So how can you be contacted if someone needs your services?
Again, my email is DONEAL at YWCAWORKS.org. My telephone number is 206-280-9961. Call me anytime if you just have ideas or you need support or you need to learn about other resources.
This is Brenda Charles-Edwards, host of Seniors Matters, and that's with an exclamation mark. You can watch us live every Friday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're here for you. I want to thank my audience for listening, and thank you, Doris, for joining us. You've given us a lot of information, and hopefully those listening that need help will reach out for it.
Okay. Thank
Be
you so
safe.
much for having me, Brenda.
Thank you. Be safe, blessings on your day, and live your life like it's golden. The coronavirus special edition is next. Thanks, Doris. Have a great weekend.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Hey.